back in a tailgate downtown. It's good to be back in a tailgate downtown.
Welcome to another wonderful edition of Tailgate TV. We are in rodeo season. The Butler Rodeo just happened, was a big hit. Appreciate what they did. And we have another rodeo superstar. I want to say better than the last, but I also like our last guest, so I don't want to say that. You can tell him you're better than him if you want to. I won't say it. But who do we have here with us, Brad?
We have Austyn Spurgeon, and Austyn, I tell you, a cowboy, interns at the sheriff's office, FFA member, bronc rider, two-time National High School Finals rodeo qualifier, MRCA URA Finals qualifier in saddle bronc, 4-H, former Blackhawk, now going to be a Greyhound over at Fort Scott Community College.
I have a couple questions before we even get into the meat of the questions.
Let's don't even get there.
I got a couple questions about just your introduction.
Okay.
First of all, what do all those letters stand for? What is MRCA URA?
The MRCA stands for the Missouri Rodeo Cowboys Association.
Okay.
And it's just your local rodeos around here. Like the Butler Rodeo is an MRCA URA rodeo.
Sweet.
And it's just like local cowboys from all around Missouri.
Yeah.
And MRCA is all the Missouri people. And it's just a bunch of adults, and we all rodeo in there. And there's the young kids that come up through those to get to the PRCA.
Okay. And then the other question, because we've already, so before today even got here, we had a little debate this morning talking about you being a Greyhound.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how to spell Greyhound?
Not really.
Okay. We didn't either. There was a little conflict of if it was Gray or Grey. Apparently it is E.
Yeah.
One of us is right. I won't say which one. I'll let that be up for discussion.
It was him.
But yeah, so I was like, wonder if we're the only ones that don't know how to do that. So if you had to, let's talk a little bit about you before we get into necessarily the rodeo and the meat of things. If you had to describe yourself in one word, what would it be?
It'd probably be the word willing.
Okay, that's a great word.
I'm always willing to try stuff, willing to work hard, and just be there for people and help.
Yeah, love that. That is...
Well, absolutely. And being willing, right? Because there are so many times, I think, where people dream about doing something, but if you're not willing to try.
Or willing
right?
to put the work in.
Right, absolutely. That makes a big, big difference.
Because a lot of the things you do, a lot of the things Brad talked about, the rodeo and the intern and the work and the going to college, I mean, you have to be willing to put in the work to do those things.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Those things don't come. You didn't just, one day be like, I'm going to hop on a horse and I'm just going to know how to ride it. Like, you had to be willing to put the work in to do that, I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and there's a ton of work. So many times, whether it be professional sports as far as football, basketball, baseball, or in rodeo, nobody really understands how much time and effort. And, I will say this is just because I have a fondness for rodeo, but football is hard and it's a physical sport, but it ain't nothing like rodeo. Rodeo,
you're a different kind of crazy to do rodeo.
it's a different thing. It's a different mindset. Speaking of that, so what got you interested in doing something in rodeo? Because obviously you're now the saddle bronc, but obviously there's many, many categories in rodeo. What kind of got you started?
Well, my dad used to do it when he was younger.
Okay, cool.
And I've always kind of looked up to that, and I've been born, and I was just raised around all of them.
Right.
And then one day, I started riding sheep at the rodeos when I was little.
Riding button busting, doing that. Yeah, it's fun.
Slowly worked my way up to it.
Okay, that's great stuff. That's a great place to start.
So you kind of alluded to it, talking about, you come from a rodeo family, but so what did your parents say? A lot of people are like, oh, your mom and dad wouldn't be. You're probably the opposite. They were probably were they excited, or were they kind of like, no, that's scary, don't do that? What did your parents say when you told them you wanted to do that?
Well, the first time I didn't really tell them. I just kind of got on. Then I called them.
They're like, that looks like my son. Oh, wait, it is.
And then I called them, and I was like, yeah, I just got on. And they're like, oh.
Oh.
That would have been nice to know.
Better to ask forgiveness than ask permission.
That's it.
I've heard that somewhere.
So you mentioned your dad and your family. Was your dad your biggest influence
He was one of the bigger ones. It was
Okay.
kind of cool seeing just me working my way up to where he used to ride.
Awesome. That's really cool. So is that why you picked Saddle Bronc, or was that just something that
Well, a
kind of led you to it?
funny story. The first time I got on a bareback horse, a
Okay.
saddle bronc, and a bull in one day.
Oh, goodness. Okay,
Wow.
glutton for
I
punishment.
bet you were
Yeah.
sore that day.
So I kind of figured out what I wanted to do right there.
Well, the bull would have turned me back to horses. Absolutely.
Gee. So, I just want to know more about that story. How that day
absolutely.
play? How did you get on all three? Where were you at? Like, just give us a little story
It
on
was
that.
all in Fair Grove. I think it was my freshman year. I was like 14, 15. And they just didn't have very many bronc riders or anything. Because there was a bunch of rodeos that weekend.
Gotcha, sure.
So my boss is like, you want to get on? And I was like, yeah, I want to get on. So I got on in the bareback and the saddle bronc and the bull riding that day.
Wow. How'd you do? So was that your first time? That was your first time
First
getting on
time.
anything?
Yeah.
And you got on all three.
Yep.
How was it? How'd you do?
Well, my bareback ride, there's pictures of me flying through the air. I went,
Okay.
blew out the back door pretty big,
Okay.
and I covered my first bronc.
Really?
Yeah.
Outstanding.
And then the bull riding wasn't very good either.
Well,
Now
Again.
was that the last time you've ridden a bull? Have you ridden bulls since then?
I rode a couple since then, but it's not really my deal.
Okay. Just kind of the same situation when they're like, oh, you're short some bull riders, I'll do it, or
Yeah.
just kind of, oh, I got the itch to do it today, or when
It
do you?
was kind of just short. and
Okay.
then we're like, yep, I'll get on, I guess.
Well, that word willing.
yeah.
Hey, I'm willing to do it. I like that.
Well, and I tell you, there is something about bulls. We were kind of talking about that before the show started. They're just a different and so athletic. There's a great photo that I've seen on Facebook, and it's a video, I think, where the bull doesn't really get out of the chute, and he stands and he is completely vertical, the bull, in this thing, and just squishes the cowboy up against the, oh man alive. So talking about chutes, I know you work some chutes.
Mhm.
There's got to be some crazy things you've seen getting ready for that. What's that been like?
Well, it's pretty cool. You meet some good people and see some cool people at some
Right.
of the videos working them. But it's just fun to be around. You get to see all those cool things and people while you're working them.
I think that would be a lot of fun. Just, obviously, those cowboys, and again, like you, I'm sure, but you see them get on an animal, they slap themselves in the face, trying to get their energy up and their excitement up and their adrenaline going, so they can get that extra strength and that kind of thing. And first of all, the guts that it takes to step over that back fence to mount an animal in there like that, and then to think, okay, I'm going to shake my head and then we're going to go ride. Oh, boy, I don't know. I couldn't do it, I don't think.
Sounds fun
Does it?
for some people.
I was going to say, next time you're short, give him a call.
Yeah, let me next time we need somebody else. I won't be willing, but you can try. So how many rides have you had, and how many times have you went to 8?
Well, I've been riding this would be the start of my 4th year.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Wow.
I've probably been on over 150 head by now.
Wow.
And I've rode somewhere between 50 or 60, just estimated guess.
Okay.
That's good.
So that's a pretty good chunk.
Yeah.
That's pretty good percentage.
Yeah, and 4 years, for an old man like me, that doesn't seem very long. I'm sure it probably seems like quite a while for you, but wow, that's a lot. I mean, think about it. That's a lot of animals in 4 years.
Yeah.
That's incredible. We're going to take a short break, and this break is sponsored by Sonic.
This episode of Tailgate TV is brought to you in part by your Butler Sonic, your local drink stop. We always say the podcast is better with a drink in your hand, so run a Sonic and grab you one. And if you haven't tried their brand new fries, I tell you what, they're pretty great. Go get you some.
Welcome back to season 2 of Tailgate TV.
Little peek on our commercial break. We were having a heck of a conversation. And one of the things got mentioned, we was talking about armadillos, because Brad, we won't get into the full details. Brad was talking about possums, had a dog that killed possums, got talking about armadillos. And I don't know if y'all know this at home, but armadillos get found dead on the road a lot, and we were discussing why that would happen. And Brad, what was your reasoning?
Well, when they're scared, armadillos jump straight up in the air, so they really jump into the car. You could drive over the top of them, and especially trucks, right? Like you're high enough off the ground, you're not going to hit them if you drive, in between the tires. But they jump into the truck and get hit. So,
Okay, so that sounds like fake news. I'll give you the reason I think, and then we'll let our guest be the judge of which one's the real reason. So my dad, when I was younger, we used to always see, and armadillos are more prevalent in Arkansas and further south you go. We used to see armadillos dead on the road everywhere, every day.
Every day.
And he told me one time, I was probably 8 years old, you know why they're always dead on the road? No, Dad, why? Well, they're allergic to asphalt. And I said, really? He said, yeah. He said, and that's why they go about halfway, and they're always dead in the middle of the road because they get to walking on it, and then that asphalt starts messing with them and gets them allergies going, and they just lay out dead right there. That's why most of the time they're not blood and guts shot everywhere. They're just a dead armadillo.
Is that what it is?
Just caked over. It's because that asphalt's gotten to them. Which one do you believe?
I think they're both pretty funny.
I tell you what, I believed that asphalt story for a good 10 years. I mean, I was probably 17, 16 when I stopped believing that. We'll jump right back into rodeoing. What's been your most memorable moment thus far?
I mean, I have a bunch. There's a bunch of cool stuff.
Well, when you've done 150 plus rides, there's
Yeah.
probably a bunch of moments.
Probably, though. I mean, I got to ride some cool places.
Okay.
So there's a couple of times that I'm like, yeah, I hit the dirt, but I still got to get up there and ride. But the most memorable, I'd have to say, was probably the first time I won my buckle riding broncs.
Right.
I'll never forget that one. I'd take a lot of spills for that one.
Yeah, right.
So where was that at? When was that?
It was a novice bronc riding that the people I work for put on, Seymour
Okay.
Phillips Rodeo. I was riding at their rodeos, and they'd bring novice horses for us, and we'd ride all year long. And, there was a rodeo at Humansville, so we got our buckles there. It was like our finals, pretty much.
Right.
But that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that sounds.
Yeah.
And we were kind of talking about that before because he brought a couple buckles for us to look at, and you can get the medals for other sports, but boy, those buckles that's big time right there. That's awesome stuff.
Oh, yeah, that makes you feel like $1 million when you got one of them on, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So you mentioned that your first ride was really memorable, and you getting your buckle.
Well, it's because you had 3 of them.
Well, right, right. So do you have and again, I know different guys that have the livestock. Obviously, they're not at every rodeo you go to, so you have different livestock guys at different events. But do you have a horse that you really like, a bronc that you really enjoyed riding, and you've done it maybe more than once, and you're like, boy, I hope I draw this horse?
There's horses like that for everyone, and I mean, mine might sound a little crazy,
Okay.
but it's the horse of the year in the URA MRCA.
Okay.
It's CR1 Mickey.
Okay.
And
CR1
He
Mickey. I
bucked
like
me
it.
off every time. I got on him this last weekend, and I was 7.82 seconds.
Oh, goodness.
That's got to just
And
hit you a
then
little bit.
He's just really good, and he bucks me off a bunch, but I just like getting on him. He's a good horse.
So have you rode him to the 8 yet?
I have not.
Okay, but you're waiting for that chance to.
Yeah, I'm going to draw him again.
And what not even less than 0.2 seconds away, like that's yeah, that gets you. I'd want it back again too.
Yeah.
Well, and that's, I'm sure not only because it's I want to ride him, right? And that and of course that willingness, as you mentioned, to get on him, but there are horses, I'm sure, as in other things, that they just kind of fit you, right? You know what I mean? They just it feels comfortable on them or whatever. I'm sure that's a part of that as well. That's really cool, and I'm glad. And again, it shows a lot of you that you're like, I want the number one horse out there, and see what I can do.
Yeah. Well, he's willing.
Again, willingness is so important.
So you talk about what horses you draw when you get there, and I'm just kind of curious. So when you're at a rodeo, how and when do you find out what horse you drew? And then, how much time do you have to really size that up?
Well, usually they draw the horses about an hour or two before the rodeo.
Okay.
And I'm usually there about 2 hours before, so I usually know. But you go up there and they just have it posted on the day sheets, and they have your name and then the number of everybody's horse that they got next to it. And I mean, I don't really size them up because they all just buck. It's
Yeah.
just
Right.
a bucking horse.
Right.
But you can
They're going
see-
to do their job. You got to do yours.
You've got people that have been on for years that you can just go up and be like, you know what this horse does, and get your rein measurement and stuff. But
Okay. Now, see, there's something that I didn't know.
There's a lot that you don't know.
Well, yes, but I mean about saddle bronc riding is so when you talk about your what'd you say, your
Rein measurement. That means
So-
measuring the reins.
Yeah. So how does that help or hurt depending on the animal?
well, each horse kind of bucks different. You'll have some that keep their head between their legs the whole time.
Right.
Or like that Mickey horse, he'll throw his head back at you.
Okay.
So
Awesome.
if you don't have enough rein, you get pulled over the front, and that's not fun.
Right.
And then if you have too much, you'll usually blow out the back door. And
Gotcha.
Now, when you say that's not fun, it kind of sounded like you were talking from experience. I'm guessing that's happened a time or two.
yeah, it was 2 years ago at the American Royal Youth Rodeo. I drew just a big old bay horse, and she was strong, and she pulled me over the front and stepped on my ribs.
Oh.
Do any damage to him other than
It
just
was
hurt him?
bruised.
Just bruised. Oof.
I think that's why you see a lot of guys in rodeo wear the long sleeve shirts and and obviously the pearl snaps and that kind of thing is because they are one big bruise from their neck down.
Want to cover up those bruises.
Yeah.
Speaking of, and this question we had a little later on, but while we're talking about the subject, I'll jump to it. Talking about protection. So when you're out there, obviously you got the vest, you got a helmet, you've got some stuff. Do you have a cup or something to protect the goods? I mean, you got something there?
I don't wear anything there.
Really?
Okay,
Oh,
so just
see.
all out. Just
Yep.
does that not scare you a little bit? Hey, I'm going to get, stepped on, stomped, or thrown wrong on these things?
No, usually they just throw you far enough they don't run you over.
Which is
Okay.
important.
Hmm.
Right.
But the key word, usually.
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 Right. That's funny.
What is the peak age? You talk about these horses. What's the peak age for a horse? And then kind of what happens after they're retired?
Well, usually they'll start bucking them when they're like 2. They'll dummy buck them as the colts just to kind of see what they are. And they'll turn them back out in the pasture until they're about 5 or 6. And then
Okay.
dummy buck them again and then start putting people on them. But they usually just buck them until they don't really buck too much anymore. And after that, a lot of companies and stock contractors will just turn them out on the pastures and let them roam for like their retirement.
Sure.
Gotcha. It's just
And
like
obviously, for the mares, obviously they're going to breed them,
Yeah.
right? And I'm sure that's probably they'll stud out some of the better males,
Yeah.
right? Unless obviously geldings and things like that, which that kind of ends that process. But
there ain't a lot of protection for those either.
well,
They needed some at some
so
point.
so in talking about that, about what size animal are we talking about as far as poundage and that kind of thing?
A lot of the saddle bronc horses are big, like 16, 17 hand, maybe a little taller.
Okay,
Just
yeah, that's a
stout.
large horse.
Yeah, feather-footed horses off the reserves and stuff.
Well,
That's big.
and
that's tall.
yeah, well, and that's what too.
That means it's a long way down. Is my point.
Well, and that's what I was saying. Me and Megan, which if you haven't watched Megan's podcast, she had a great teachers episode.
Yeah, she did.
But we were watching some rodeo the other day because we were just getting in the mood for it, So we were sitting and watching. I think it was 2005 NFR because that's what was on the rodeo channel. But we're watching it and we're looking at those horses, and I'm like, they're not as big and strong looking as a bull per se,
Absolutely.
but they're taller.
Yep.
I mean, that's a longer ways down than getting
Yeah.
bucked off a bull, and they seem to jump higher. So I
Yes.
mean, if you're falling off of a horse,
Right.
you're falling down a longer ways than if you're falling off of a bull.
Yeah. The only good thing about a horse is they're just trying to get you off of them, basically.
Yeah, they don't seem
a
as aggressive.
bull
once
wants
they,
to get you off so they can get you.
yeah.
I mean, they just have a different mindset. So, where would you say is your favorite rodeo to go to just like the
Local rodeos.
yeah, well, or just any of them you've been to, just like the surroundings and the, hey, this is cool. Look at this kind of stuff.
Oh, I've rode it. Also, I've rode in a bunch of states. Like I rode in Wyoming, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma. So I've been kind of everywhere and kind of seen a lot. But Nationals was pretty fun to ride at.
Where
And that was
at?
where, yeah,
Gillette, Wyoming.
Oh, okay.
Gillette, Wyoming.
Yep.
Okay, okay.
But
That would be something.
I don't know. There's 2 rodeos that are really close, and that's Pleasant Hill at the Cass County Fair.
Okay,
That crowd's always amazing. They're energetic, and it
Awesome.
sells out every night.
that's great.
And then Butler, being close to home and having everybody come support you is a good feeling.
Right, family, friends,
Now,
and all that.
Have you
Absolutely.
been to, and I actually haven't, but I've heard from some
Okay.
people in this room
Okay.
that the Hume Rodeo is a place to be.
The Hume Rodeo is a good one, too.
Okay. Have you ridden in that one?
I've rode at that one every year since I started riding.
Okay.
They pack that place out.
It's a good time.
Yeah, I guarantee you the population of Hume at
Plus.
probably quadruples
Yeah.
for just that rodeo. It's
Yeah.
fun.
Wow.
It's
I
a
need to
nice
try to make
rodeo.
it out there this
Yeah, it's
I don't
a
know
nice
when it is
rodeo.
this year, but I need to try to make it out there. I tell you what, we will be back here with more questions. We are not done. We have more on our list for Austyn Spurgeon right after this break, sponsored by O3 Customs.
Tailgate TV is thrilled to partner with O3 Customs, the official hat sponsor of Tailgate TV Sports and Outdoors. But they do more than just hats. They do all kinds of custom engravings, including tumblers and any other needs. Your one-stop shop for engraving, O3 Customs out of Adrian.
All right, we are back here on Tailgate TV with the one, the only, the cowboy, Austyn Spurgeon. And Brad has a
Yeah.
lot of questioning. He is ready to just interrogate Austyn. So let's get this going.
We've talked about kind of up to this point. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about your future. Signed a letter to go to Fort Scott Community College to be on their rodeo team. The men's team this year was ranked number 6 in the country. Amazing. And what I found, just doing the little studies,
They're going to go up now that they got Austyn. They're going to be number 4 or 5.
maybe 1.
They've got some help.
So they are in the National Intercollegiate Rodeo Association. They're in the Central Plains region now,
Which is called the CPR.
which is, yeah, thing.
Stands for Central Plains Region.
I got it.
Okay.
So, but I was amazed by some of the schools, and I don't know if you've looked at that. Oklahoma State University is in that region. Kansas State University is in that region, along with Coffeyville and then Dodge City Community College, which, you're going to get to go to all those places and ride, obviously home and away, and that whatever they do there. I don't even know if that's a thing in rodeo. I assume it is. But that is a great opportunity for you. Are you excited about that?
I'm very excited. A lot of good competition.
Yeah, absolutely. And the play, and you talked about going to Wyoming and Oklahoma and Kansas and all the places. Obviously, that's going to open up that as well. That ought to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I'm super thrilled for you. So
Brad's just upset you didn't go to Oklahoma State. That's his school. He's
it's
a
not
big
accurate. So Coach Chad Cross, how did that happen? Did he contact you? How'd that work?
Well, I've gone there for years to practice. Coach is a great guy. If you want to learn and you're willing to learn, to go in there and just put in work, he'll be there to teach you and help you along the way.
Well, because he does some schools, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I thought
do
so.
a bronc riding school every year
Right.
to help the younger kids coming up and kind of see who we got around.
Okay. See, I didn't realize, but that's obviously, in most sports, right? You can go to places, but you can't. If you're a basketball player, you don't see very many colleges putting on a whole lot of events. I know Wichita State did for a while. They would bring in some high school kids and let you do a camp over there. But to be able to go over there and learn from a college coach about bronc riding, that's super good of him. And good job for Fort Scott Community College to open that up.
Absolutely. So, outside of bronc riding, obviously rodeo's huge, ton of events, and you've talked a little bit, done some bull riding too, here and there. But is there other events that really you have an interest in that you're like, man, I really would like to try that or get into that?
I'd really like to learn the calf rope.
Okay.
I've always thought that was cool. Just kind of learn to do it all around. And get points for that.
Okay.
I fought bulls last weekend in Gardner, Kansas.
Who won? You or the bulls?
The bulls.
Every time.
Definitely.
Yeah, every time. So, you thinking about team roping, or you thinking about just calf roping, just the
Brad's looking for a
throw?
partner.
No,
He
no,
said
that
he
is
could
beyond
be a great
my
healer. He just needs a
thing.
header.
And there ain't a horse big enough to carry my big old butt.
I'm willing to learn it all, honestly. I'd
Okay.
love the team rope, calf rope. I'd try it all. Steer wrestling.
Okay.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
give me a horse,
So-
and I'll try.
Go ahead.
Speaking of team roping in Oklahoma State, I
Yep.
actually have a grandfather that's what he did. He went to Oklahoma State on scholarship and did team roping.
The pokes down there.
Oh yeah.
So, back to the college thing. So, what are you going to study when you go over there? Do we know yet?
I'm going to get my welding certificate this year.
Okay, awesome.
A lot of people go to Fort Scott for that. That's kind of
They
a
got a
thing
good
there.
program
Yeah,
there.
that's what I've heard.
Well, and I tell you, I've said this to many, many people. Whether you do it for a living or not, welding is such especially if you're a person that's going to have cattle or whatever, and you can make side money building tree stands for people, like for deer hunting or
If you start doing that, let him know. He'll take one
absolutely,
from you.
right? But there's always something that you can do to make some money if you're a welder. That's a great thing to do. Absolutely. So we've talked about rodeo. We've talked about going to college. Do you do anything else? You have any other hobbies? Any other things you enjoy? Golf or hunting or fishing?
I really like to golf, actually. I was
Do
on the
you?
golf team at Adrian this
Okay,
year.
good.
It was our first year having a team.
Right.
It's
right.
pretty fun.
Okay, if we have a follow-up interview, we'll have it on the golf course.
Okay.
Well-
You enjoyed that, huh?
Yeah.
Was this your first year of really? Okay,
Didn't really know what I was doing. Just went out there and golfed.
that's all right.
Hey, that's how I am. Brad can attest. I don't really know what I'm doing,
Yeah.
but I just go out there and it's fun.
Golf is something you can do for your whole life, which is
Yeah,
except for when
when-
you have a back injury. It's a little harder.
You can still do it. You
Well,
just as long
not
as somebody
very
else
well.
can get you to the greens, you can putt.
Yeah.
I have a buddy who just went through that situation recently.
Right.
So we are going to jump into some fun questions as we wrap this up. So I've got a list here of would you rather questions, and we want to know what Austin would rather do. Austin, would you rather walk around naked in public for 2 days or go to jail for 1 year?
I'd probably walk around naked for 2 days.
As I said earlier to someone else, doing that might get you the jail time too. So it may be a
Yeah.
2 for
Yeah,
1.
it may lead to both.
I work up in the jail, so I know I don't want to go in there.
No, I'm with you on that.
I've seen enough. Would you rather have a mullet or be bald?
Probably a mullet.
That's right answer.
You want to take your hat off?
I had a mullet before this.
Well, that looks better.
I've had both recently.
You couldn't ask that to Cameron.
No, you already know the answer. Would you rather? This is a thinker. Are you ready?
Oh boy.
Would you rather eat chocolate flavored broccoli or eat broccoli flavored chocolate?
Probably chocolate flavored broccoli.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think that's the only answer.
That's been the unanimous answer so
Yeah.
far.
It's the
So
only answer.
we've workshopped these, and that's the only answer that we've gotten. Would you rather have a time machine or a teleportation device?
Uh,
Probably a teleportation because I can get to the rodeos faster.
That's got to be the worst part of rodeoing is that
Well,
well because, and again, I get it, is something like the rodeo here in town, here in Butler.
yeah, that's a
Saddle
long
Club.
drive.
Well, but they don't have another one close, like the next weekend. You drive far away because all the people are like kind of rodeoed out, so to speak. And so as a participant, you have to go somewhere else farther away. And then maybe you get maybe the next week or 2 or 3 weeks
Then you
later,
come back
something
to Hume.
closer. And then you're going to Wyoming the week after that.
Yeah.
Well, and so that's another thing, had a lot of questions, thought about asking, and didn't quite get there, but the travel.
Oh.
I mean, do you have a travel partner? I mean, is there people that you kind of, hey, we're going to go this road together, we're going to travel together?
It kind of just depends. I have friends in Oklahoma that ride too, or I'll just call Karen and be like, "We got it ready, get in."
Gotcha. Okay,
Just
so
kind of depends on where we're going and who's kind of ended up in it.
well, because that kind of is what makes it fun too, right? I mean, the people of rodeo.
Yeah.
I mean, that it seems like y'all have a pretty close bond, right?
It's a great environment to be
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Um.
And you don't see that in a lot of other sports either, right? That, because you're competing with those guys, but yet they're
Now
buddies.
you're competing against the horses, not the people.
in. The people that ride against you want to see you succeed as bad as they do.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, that is good. That's solid.
Would you rather cough bubbles or burp confetti?
Probably cough bubbles.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay. That one we've had mixed reviews on. Here, would you rather give up showering for a month or give up the internet for a month?
I'd probably give up internet.
Okay.
I'm super weird about hygiene stuff.
Okay.
Well,
yeah,
that's,
no, me
that's
too.
not a bad thing.
I'm like, I do both like daily. Like I shower twice a day. I also on the internet 24. I'm like, that's a
Yeah.
tough. I don't know if I can come up with an answer.
Oh, for me, it was the internet easy. Somebody could take the internet away tomorrow, and I'd be great.
You say that, but I know how much you're on your internet.
Well, only because I have to be.
You don't. You
I
choose
do
to
have
be.
to be.
Last one.
Last one.
Would you rather have to be in a cast or have to get stitches?
Get stitches.
Okay. Have you ever had to do either?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a scar
said
on my
both.
arm.
Okay. What is that? Was that a rodeo injury or?
Kind of. I kind of slit it open.
Okay.
And in my ear, I split in half when I was little.
No kidding.
I was running through a chute gate being dumb, and it fell on me.
Being dumb.
You don't say.
How'd that go?
Not very good.
Yeah.
The shoot gate one.
Yeah.
They're hard. They're going to win every time.
Yep.
Well, we want to thank Austyn for being here with us on Tailgate TV. We want to thank our sponsors so much. Sonic, O3 Customs, Mid-America Live, CNS Graphics, Prepcast, Butler Chamber of Commerce, and Emmanuel Baptist Church. Thank you, everyone, and join us again for another episode of Tailgate TV.